At Fitfiliate, we're excited to announce the Affiliate Engineering Seminar. Coming soon to an affiliate near you, don't miss this exciting opportunity to create the affiliate of your dreams. Link in show notes or in bio to read. And welcome back to our next episode of the podcast, joined as always by my favourite dynamic duo, the one and only Andrew, and also Tony. How are you, gentlemen?
I'm good. We don't get any bigger, more elaborate introductions this week. Come on, Lisa.
That was fine.
I
Don't put
just
so much
wanted to-
pressure.
Andrew's now on my side where he's just like, yeah, he's here again.
Yeah, he's back. He was a special guest a couple of times now. He's like, he's just one of the Motley crew now. So he's just part of the family. And if you do watch our YouTube download, you'll see a fun new intro over the last couple of weeks featuring Andrew as well. So we've rejigged the intro, so he's got a hot seat now. So look out, Will.
Nice.
He's coming to you hot.
He is pretty hot in that seat. I'd like the record to show that I am, in fact, back to walking to nowhere again. We're committed to this step game. I figure the reason that I do this is in solidarity with all the affiliate owners listening to this, because they're also busy going nowhere. So I figure if I'm walking, they can relate.
Shots fired.
Yes.
And I suppose that's a handy little segue into today's topic about the subject of fear. And I don't know what it is. It's about this time of year. The inboxes start to get full, telling affiliate owners what they should be afraid of and worried about and coming up. Affiliate owners it's summer, it's hot. Members are, taking a break for the summer. They want to spend the summer on their boat and do whatever. And will I ever get more members? There's so many things generating fears. So I thought today we could talk about what are some of their biggest fears and what it actually holds them back from achieving.
Yeah. As a current affiliate owner, I would like to say the fear is that it's very simple. I will not be able to pay my bills. And it's simple. It doesn't mean it's easy or to explain about, but the feeling is that all this weight can come down on me. I'm stuck with the lease. I'm stuck with the payment that I took out a loan for equipment. I'm providing jobs. I'm providing experiences. And that weight and pressure is suffocating, and it can suffocate passion as well. So that's where I think the biggest fear is that everyone says burnout, and I feel like a lot of mentors sell burnout. Burnout's a part of being an entrepreneur. It's just how you manage it. Do you have the skills to manage it? And I feel like that's where, I met Tony. Did you technically give me advice for my affiliate, or did I just talk to you once and then run away with it?
Yeah, you basically you extracted as much value as you could from me as possible through various different miscellaneous phone calls.
Yeah, great. That's exactly.
That's what the link is for. People use it.
Yeah, that was really good sales right there.
But that's where, as well, having that weight on you, it also stifles that, and that fear stifles, creativity. So you can fall into the trap of the world is ending, all my members are leaving. I need to buy this $27 ebook on how to create more leads or write better ads or blah, 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 rather than going, hey, if I had a conversation with a client the other day who realized that, there's a down dip in members. He said, but instead of panicking, I looked and went, well, this happens every year. How do I stop it happening next year? And understanding the data and the patterns. So he still has that awareness to not slip into that fear. And he has that creativity to go, what's the solution for right now and also for next year? But when you're feeling that way, Andrew, the doors are going to shut, everyone's going to hate me. How am I going to make rent? I'm going to lose my car. It does stifle that creativity and that ability to be open to thinking about bigger picture stuff. And also that's where all this subversive stuff that's sitting in the inbox is like, you need more, you need this, and people can just go click, click, click and try and think this is the magic pill I need, which is going to make this year different.
And when you're stressed the most, you're going to get a chance to talk, Tony. I know you want it. But when you're stressed the most, Lisa, you're absolutely right. You buy the dumbest shit.
Yeah.
You eat the most when you're stressed the most. You purchase this thing, and where I know
a new Echo bike will make me feel better.
yes, it'll make me feel better. And the one thing that I talk to owners about all the time, if you're in the Midwest, is this. I use a lot of references. It must be like Andrew Hiller and I now are buddies enough where I can say his name, since he uses movies. I use movies too, but then I use analogies. It must be an Andrew thing. But I played college basketball. The first thing I tried to do, because I was nervous, dude, the national anthem still brings me panic of fear.
Fair.
Fear. And then when you start a game, which I was a starter, you're like,
Uh-oh.
I came back. I didn't speak. When you start a game, you have to get the ball through the hoop immediately. The best thing you can do is get to the foul line, because now you're playing loose. And when owners know that they have an abundance of income, they typically play loose. They get back to their relationships.
Yep, 100%.
You guys don't want me to talk today because I'm all hopped up on yerba mate over here. So God only knows what's going to come out of my mouth. Man, there's so many cool parts of that I had nothing to do with, which is pretty fascinating. The first one is, I do think it's very powerful that you just brought such a salient point, because I think in the past, Lisa and I have gotten a little bit too far away from the central realization of fear, and that, like, we know what the problems are for affiliate owners, and like they are in fact like kind of the point of like burnout or vision or all these things. Like, they're in fact problems, but they're not essentially those central pain points. And like, it does always come down to probably that one central fear, which is like, I'm not going to be able to pay the rent, right? Like, or whatever that looks like. Or even if it's not a reality, there's a fear that one day that's going to in fact happen. And to your point about burnout, which is ironic, is that burnout is essentially just a byproduct of inaction, right? Like, the whole reason burnout happens to entrepreneurs in general is that we push and we push and we push on this Sisyphean task, rolling this rock uphill. We don't really get anywhere. You don't really burn out when you're in momentum, when you're in traction. You burn out when everything you're trying is not fucking working, right? Which is, I think, part and parcel one of the big frustrations of affiliate owners. And like, Lisa, you said it, you were like, for whatever reason, the season is that people are showing up in their inboxes. And the reason for that season is that even the gurus who are preying on them, they're in a downturn right now, because summer is on everybody, right? And summer just means like, I'm out, right? So affiliate owners are down in attendance, and then gurus are down in enrollments. And so everybody's preying on everybody else's weaknesses, and the whole thing is one giant confusion. But for you to bring up, that central sort of fear, which is, I can't pay the bills, it's ironic because it is a fear, right? And what's funny about that fear is, like, and you kind of already said it, Andrew, which is the fear creates interesting behaviors. And one of the reasons why this fear becomes a big problem is that my question is, how the hell did they get to the point where they can't pay their bills? Like, what were you doing to get you to the point where you're like, you know what we should do? Keep scaling and stretching and driving this thing to make it bigger and bigger. And then when you realize, you're like, oh, fear. So the one thing that they're trying to avoid is the one thing they're trying to create. And if you listen to this podcast long enough, you know that if that's the case, the thing you're trying to avoid is the very thing you create. Trauma is to blame, right? And so we have to get into, it doesn't have to be like deep-seated trauma, but it's like one mistake that happened once that was outside their ability to cope with has led to their frantic sort of resolution to like, I need to do this thing. And so and what's interesting about people who are not in traction is that rather than simplifying their operation, they always overcomplicate. They keep layering on. I'm going to try to do more things. So you have all these affiliate owners terrified of not being able to pay their rent, cover their overhead, and as a byproduct, doing a million things in an attempt to, quote unquote, pay the rent and cover the overhead. And then in exchange for doing all those things, ends up doing nothing, right? So it's like this whole self-fulfilling prophecy that ends up happening when all it needs to happen is somebody say, hey, what do you need to stop doing in order to be successful? To say that to an affiliate owner who's terrified of paying the bills, you might as well have told them that they have a cross-eyed baby.
Yeah. Well, go back to my reference. I don't know if it got cut off. Probably not. On the basketball is you're already going to an affiliate owner who had 3 air balls in the game. Their confidence is so low. And so that's why I know I'm excited about what we're doing with a new product, because I want to be able to get people in the door around those conversations, around that, so you can hustle harder early to not get to that stage. Because a lot of times you go to the doctor right after you're already fucked. You know, help me, save me. It's like, man, we could have, exactly what you said, we could have built you up way earlier.
Right.
But what's the barrier to entry, Tony, Lisa? What's the barrier to entry for that for most people?
You tell me.
I'm asking. I mean, I know what my answer.
For a lot of people, it's a fear. It's they notice that something's wrong with their health, and they go, but if I go to the doctor, I'm probably going to get bad news. So I'm just going to bury my head in the sand and hopefully it goes away, which, makes it worse. And then also financially, well, it's going to cost me a shitload of money. Absolutely. And they've also had experiences where they may have reached out to somebody for help for their business, and it has cost them a metric shit ton of money, and it's got them nowhere because none of the solutions or the templates or advice works. So they're like, well, you're just going to, I know you say you just want to talk to me. Like, we circle all the way back to that initial book a call. That's why the call's here. You're going to want to talk to me, but you're then going to want to sell me everything that you do. And then, upsell me to everything, and it's still not going to work because I didn't make it work before, but they don't have the awareness to go, I didn't make this work. It's that didn't work.
Yes,
probably a long-winded answer.
No, that's a great winded answer, because also what I'm hearing from owners is that things only work when you have a template or do this way. It only works for so long, and it can work really well for a year, for 90 days, for whatever. But then there needs to be something ongoing that their void hasn't really been filled yet.
Yeah.
It's like.
And what tends to happen when something does work, so say you get a template, here's your gift wrap solution for you, and it works beautifully for however long. The problem is the affiliate owner doesn't trust it and starts to, break it and change it. And, well, it worked like this, I'm going to change it like this. So then it becomes not that core kernel or nugget or whatever it is. Then they've changed it, and then it gets to live up to their self-fulfilling prophecy of this didn't work. Because to quote, Tony regularly, he was gifted a wrench for a reason. Like, they get in and they tinker with stuff and they break stuff because it makes them have that element of control, because this is too good to be true. When's the other shoe going to drop? And I know I've done that 1,001 times. So then you start to manipulate it and break it, and they start to touch it. Just leave it alone.
I think one of the things that you said about booking the call and people are afraid of being sold something. What's ironic about that is that they're already going to buy something. It's just a matter of who they're going to buy it from. Because here's the thing: fear and chaos creates consumption every time, right? Like, if you look at, essentially, there's a reason that's driving the madness that is the economy of the world right now, and that is because people have a higher self-reported level of fear and chaos assumption than any other time in history. And what are they doing? They're trying to buy their way out of it. They're trying to buy these solutions, these ideas, these things, and all they're really doing is rack up credit card debt and all these other things, right? So the point is that you're going to book call and you're going to buy it, because the very nature of how the human brain works is that we think we must do more in order to solve a problem, right? The scarcity brain tells us that we must consume a solution to our problem, as opposed to eliminate or subtract to find the solution to that problem. And that's really where coaches come in, both in fitness, business, you name it, is somebody to say, hey, why are you doing that? Right. But the reality is they're going to buy something because that's the way it works. And the reality is they're in the situation they're in. We have this, let's call it this assumed large community of people, business owners in the CrossFit space, who are afraid that their bills are going to go unpaid. And in an attempt to make sure that doesn't happen, they are mass consuming ideas, templates, solutions, answers, etc., to avoid that situation. But if you look at the actual data, it's not working. And the reason is, it's for the same reason people going out and buying sneakers and Louis bags and all these other things to quote unquote make themselves feel better isn't working. But what it does do, to Andrew's point, is it lets people have something very systematic and specific to pour themselves into, absent of doubt, absent of, fear, and be like, okay, I'm going to do this thing because this is the thing that works. And then to your point, Lisa, immediately upon downloading this answer, what's the first thing they do? They iterate, right? Because every time I tell you exactly what it will take to make it to the CrossFit Games, the first thing you're going to do is say, I got to make some changes. I don't eat chicken, or, I don't work out at night, or this or that. Well, none of those things. Like if you want, Fraser's winning solution, you got to do the whole thing, full stop. And this is why you can't buy somebody else's solution to your business, because you're going to iterate it. You have to. The context changes. But that requires somebody to come in and say, hey, let's calm down together. Let's take a look at what's happening, what's getting you forward, what's not. Let's see what we can throw out. Let's see what we can ratchet up, and let's see what's working, what's not working. Let's double down on that. But if somebody just comes in and says, hey, I know you're scared, totally understandable. Here's what's worked for 1,000 other people. That seems way more exciting to the average affiliate owner, because they're like, sweet, it's not about me. I'm going to do what worked for the other 1,000 people. And they try it. And it works to some degree. There's some traction there, but the iteration and the nuance changes everything.
I always tell owners, if you only open an affiliate to make money, then you're either stupid or like and I don't mean that in a rude way. You're a humanitarian. I've said this a lot. You care about people a ton. There are tons of other ways to make money for pure capitalism point, like than opening up a much easier CrossFit gym. And even if you were just like, well, I just really like watching people row and sweat. Okay, there's even other ways that you could probably do that where, yeah, you're not even a CrossFit affiliate. However, you open a CrossFit affiliate because you fell in love with the methodology, and you fell in love with that feeling that you got when you saw somebody do something that they didn't think they could do.
Mm.
And that you can't get that other places. So now it's like, what are you willing to sacrifice? Are you willing to eat this fear every day to keep that vision and passion going? And that's why you lean on the template, because you're like, well, I got to be like those other 1,000 people, right? And then you pigeonhole yourself into like, oh, I'm supposed to be like this person. And then you get even more fucking pissed when it doesn't work. Because you're like, there must be something wrong with me, where it's like, maybe, but also maybe that just wasn't the right thing for you.
Yeah.
That's okay.
Yeah. I just laughed because I just now saw what Lisa was talking about, that Andrew's thing says very tall.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. How tall are you, Tony? Never seen you in person yet. Okay, I'm 6'1". I'm a real 6'3". So like if you measure me, I'm gonna say so that people will say that's like 6'4".
I feel like a 6'5". Yeah.
Yeah, that people will say that's like a 6'4".
Those of us over here at 5'3" will just sit quietly in the corner, in your shadow.
That's what happens on that prison island. It's true that, and I guess back to that, I love everything you just said about that, because it is so true as to, and we've said it 1,000 times before too, like if you wanted to do this just to make money, there's 1,000 ways to make more money, and simpler, and probably even just go back to work, probably the job you left, but you hated it. We know that, right? And it wasn't a good calling for your purpose. And so hopefully, something about your soul is seeking expression through you. And ideally that calls towards CrossFit. And that's awesome. And somebody needs to dig into that, because every single one of us has a different expression. The problem really runs into is that, to your point, Andrew, they look at it and they say, okay, I want to be a CrossFit affiliate. What does that mean? What does that look like? What does a CrossFit affiliate do? Okay. And so they're so preoccupied with what a CrossFit affiliate should be, they don't spend any time trying to consider what it could be. And that was the whole point all along. And if you step out of the business model and you look at CrossFit in general, it's a pretty honest mistake, because I think a lot of people come in, they're like, oh, CrossFit is a program, right? It's, if I just follow this program and I do these benchmarks, and I do these workouts, I'm going to succeed. There must be something about that with my business. And there is. And those are the basics of business fundamentals. Like, this is the thing that I think they get confused about. What is not CrossFit is when you walk into a gym, you don't walk in and walk right into a competitor's program. right? You don't walk in with, hypertrophy. You don't walk in with periodization. You don't walk in with all these other things. Now, those are options once you get better, but people go looking for that. They're like, okay, what is my games training for my business? But they really just need to get back to quote unquote boring CrossFit, right? Because business itself, the reason an affiliate is a fantastic business model is because it's very boring, right? It has all the hallmarks of a fantastic business model. It has built-in recurring membership. It has increasingly growing and invaluable lifetime value. It has a ton of fulfillment and purpose. I mean, the list can go on, but what happens as soon as somebody takes possession of that affiliate, they break all of those things. They drive down the lifetime value. They start discounting and manipulating people. They lose all their fulfillment and reward. And the difference is that the key here is that it's a boring business until you get frantic and you start touching stuff, right? You start screwing with the model, you start changing things, and you make it this really, really complex monster. And all of a sudden you're like, the affiliate doesn't work. I'm like, well, it did work until you broke it.
Yes, because you were bored. You got bored. Yeah. And other passions came about when you got bored. And I'll give a shout out straight out to Chris Cooper and those guys. Like, they did a great job with their Tinker group. I'm friends with a lot of so what they saw is, they're like, hey, we need people. Your affiliate works. Here's some other interests. They talk about all things, that real estate, Airbnb, cryptocurrency, the whole life, whatever. And all of it's not, who knows? Maybe it's not all great info, whatever. You're a big boy at that point. You decide. But I think that sometimes you get bored, like you just said, and you just start doing dumb shit because you're bored. Whereas once you're bored and things are working, maybe you need to start maybe you have something in there that a coach could pull out. And you guys get on the table to realize, like, oh, I think I have another, like, I got really interested in this piece of my business. And then Lisa dives more into that. And turns out I really enjoy real estate and want to own my own building. Or so, you know what I mean? Like, there's just so much more.
And this is, we were talking, I think, possibly one of our previous episodes where, affiliate owners get scared when we start talking about them doing something else, but they're like, but I'm an affiliate owner. I don't want to sell my affiliate. I want to be out of my affiliate. And it's really hard getting them to make that flick that you don't have to. This can be something that you just pursue on the outside because you've got the freedom to do that. You can still be the owner. You can still go kiss the babies and shake the hands and high five and whatever it is that you want to do. You have the freedom to choose how much you're involved here, but then you can go and pursue something else, which also scratches that itch for you. And again, it's that fear that stops them doing that because they're like, no, I can't. You can't make me sell my affiliate. It's like, that's not the conversation.
That's Lisa, that was so damn good. I can't believe you can do that at 2:30 in the morning because that, you know what you said, it's fear. It's also lack of self-worth. They don't think they deserve that. They don't think they deserve the experience.
Yeah, yep. I'm just a gym owner. And I know this because I said it 1,000 times myself. Like, I'm just a coach. I'm just a gym owner. And even when they go to parties or functions, it's like, oh, what do you do? Oh, so I just own a gym. They don't say, hey, I'm an entrepreneur, a business owner, I'm a whatever. They kind of dim that light, which is then that, you dig into the stuff that it stops them with, why aren't you charging what you're worth, raising your rates, doing all that sort of stuff? Because again, it's that whole fear conversation and it's attached to their identity. And then they don't understand that they have so much more potential. And if they explored some of these things, they would come back as a better person to the main thing that's got them there.
It's that T word, right? I suppose when I said that before about trauma, everybody rolled their eyes in the back of their head and they're like, I don't have that, right? But like, self-worth is a trauma mechanism, right? And there's lots of other casts of characters that sit alongside it at the table. Some people have more than one. Some people only have one. Some people have none. Those lucky few, they're the ones that just seem to run into the fire and come out fine. But, to the point of how we get to the way that we are, right? It's like the very thing you're trying to avoid is the very thing that you create. And a lot of that, like to Andrew's point, is a self-worth conversation. If you have a low self-worth, it doesn't matter how much inherent or individual success you achieve until you solve that problem, whatever is driving that self-worth thing. And it's not about layering on more consumption or more acquisition of things, although we tend to think that it is. It has everything to do with just, taking a lot of the stimulus off the plate, getting the business to a place of being boring, realizing where you are the one that interfaces with that business, and then how do I keep showing up as this version of myself, and then just fixing that thing, because that's how you'll find real fulfillment and real reward. That's not really the point of this conversation. Like, the point of is the fear and how they get here and why they break their business. Because I think anybody listening is be like, why on earth would I intentionally break my business because I'm bored? Well, you wouldn't, but for the same reason you've probably done small love in your life, and then you got 4, 6, 8 weeks into it and you realize, hey, this isn't working as fast as I wanted to. What do? You start changing it, right? The percentages change, the frequency changes, the wage change, whatever, right? And then eventually you just either lose interest or you get disappointed because you're like, small love didn't work for me. I'm a much bigger hatch guy, right? Like, you didn't do it. You didn't follow it. You iterated it. You changed it. You adapted it to fit your comfort level and your expectations of how much effort you want to put into it in exchange for how much reward you got out of it. And the same thing happens in your business. You can download the best small love for your business that you want. You're immediately going to begin it. It's going to be challenging. It's going to confront you with all sorts of things that you don't want to look at in the mirror about, things like self-worth and all these other things. And so as soon as those things start to bubble up and you're like, as soon as someone says, hey, here's the secret to your gym, prospect. Call 70 people a day, every single day, put them on the phone, complete strangers. What are you going to do? There's got to be a better way, right? How about 30, right? Or maybe I'll just send out postcards, or I'll send 70 emails, right? And you begin to iterate based on your comfort and your thing. And all of a sudden you broke the well-mannered, well-intentioned advice that someone like Daniel Chaffee gave you, right? It's just like, hey, you want to fix your business? Talk to every single person you come in contact with about your business. Are you going to do that? Probably not until someone says, hey, why are you always the problem, right? Like, how do we fix that part of it? And so you will continue to self-destruct and break the business because that's not necessarily anything you have control over, right? Fears drive the mechanism, and that's got to change.
But don't forget that people, when they hear that trauma word, there's no good poetry has ever been written without someone with trauma. No good music has been written. So, like, instead of identifying that as a villain, if you dig into it a little bit more with a coach, that's it. I guess it's healing in itself, and it's realizing that these trauma scars that I'm working on actually can be to my advantage if I look deep enough.
Yeah, 100% of the time. And like, I think that the big problem with the trauma word in general is that, one, it is a big word with a lot of buckets in it, and unfortunately, when using it, sometimes it can be very insensitive to people who've experienced very, very, very extreme trauma. And so I think a lot of people are like, oh, I don't have that. Like, there's not a living, breathing, walking, alive human who does not have some degree of a traumatic experience, right? And that does not mean it had to be some, like, there's positive sides of it too. Like, you could have things that have happened to you that you can't even possibly figure out how you got so lucky, right? Like, that seems weird, but it's essentially, to really minimize the word, anything that's outside your ability to cope, right? And like, in business, that's every day. You wake up and you're like, I can't even cope with 7 a.m., right? Like, so not to minimize people who have experienced real, true, emotional, heavy trauma. It's not about that. There probably needs to be a better word. But to your point, Andrew, like, it's not a villain. You're not the victim. It's not about that. It's about understanding that, like, hey, just like in every superhero movie that's ever existed, until they got control of their superpower, it damn near killed them, right? It was ripping them apart. Like, they didn't know what to do about it. They had these headaches. They had all these things. And then all of a sudden one day they were just like, oh, if I just focus this thing that I thought was what was wrong with me, it's actually my superpower. Right? Like, I am the most constructively lazy person you'll ever meet. That's my superpower. Because of that, like, and if I focus it, it's a superpower. But if I don't, I'm a potato. Right? Like, there's no middle ground. Right? And it's the same thing.
The first time someone gets you to dig into that, like, what's the struggle here for you, or what's the thing that always keeps coming up, it is as uncomfortable as anything. And you have to look into that.
We all do.
Yeah.
Like,
and you look
into
one
of these external things for it to be about that. And then the person looks past and goes, yeah, but what about, and they're like, no, look over here. How about these things?
Yeah. And you do, and you want to wiggle out of the conversation, but that's the beauty of a coach, is that they're just going to sit there, and as someone who's just ticked off a milestone of 4 years as sitting across the screen from Tony in coaching calls, they'll sit there and they'll just look at you until you actually move past your own layers of bullshit and actually say the answer, that because they're like, you know what it is. No, I don't know what it is. I don't really. Yes, you do. And sit there and hold that space. But once you have done that, then you're like, wow, that's actually the most powerful lever I could have pulled. I want to do that again. And then you start digging. But it's that first time that's, again, laden with the fear and the uncertainty and the unknown, where people are like, oh, it's going to be uncomfortable. I don't want to do that. But once they do and open that can of superpower, then they're like, this is what I want to tap into more.
Yeah. I think sometimes when people hear that too on the outside of it, I think sometimes they're like, oh, that sounds icky. That sounds like therapy. It's not that, right? It's not, I mean, sometimes it might feel that way, and it could be that way. But it's just the same as when you have a client who has essentially veered off track inside the gym, and you have to have an uncomfortable conversation about something, that a pattern that you're recognizing in them that they're not recognizing in themselves, right? There's 7 days a week of CrossFit, but somehow by the grace of God, they have begun to gain weight, right? Like they might not even be aware of it. You're like, how did you become the fat CrossFitter? Right? Like, you know, and we have to address that elephant in the room. That's a bad pun, but that has to be addressed. And the same thing happens, you know, with any coach, because the whole very nature of coaching is essentially transfer of belief. And that means two things. One, I must believe in you more than you believe in yourself in all the moments when you don't believe in yourself. And two, it's my job to observe you in every single one of those moments and where you are dodging that belief in yourself, right? And then my job is to intervene, because that's all coaching is essentially an interventionist. It's my job to step in and say, hey, you did it again. They're like, huh. And you'd be surprised how many times people are like, I did, right? Or like, we talked about this earlier, the summer comes and they're like, how am I the least surprised person in the room when your summer shows up? Because I've seen your scorecard for 4 years, right? Like, it's been the same thing. How are you still surprised 4 years later? Because when you are layered in the complexity, and you have layered on the consumption, and you have layered on the distractions, so you don't have to pay attention, you don't see those things coming. That's where coaches come in. But if a coach comes in, and people think what coaching is training. But if I came in and said, hey, here's what we're going to do, more stuff, more new ideas, more things, that's just that's more blankets on top of the body, right? Like, we don't know which one's working. We don't even know how many is enough. We just know that I'm warm.
And I think it's, people will go through and go, well, if I just ignore it, maybe this year will be different. And then summer comes and it's like, oh, it's not different. I don't know why it's not different. I thought it would be different this year. Well, you know, thought, nothing got done. Like, you can just avoid it and go, well, we're going to have the same, you know, shitstorm next year.
You want to hear about a wild one? Sometimes the very thing they need to do to fix the summer dip is to ignore it. Sometimes they're the ones driving the chaos. I'm not saying this is the case for all of you guys listening, so I'm not telling you to take the summer off. But in many cases, the answer is, have you tried not trying? Right? And
Hakuna Matata, right?
Yeah.
Hakuna Matata.
Yeah.
You tried just not caring about it. But that's the thing, is like, I think there's a book called The Body Keeps Score. You know, didn't read it, but I feel like I get it.
It's a great one.
Yeah, and then I think habits keep score as well. And I think that's what might need to be uncovered with a coach, is like, your habits are happening.
Show me what you repeatedly do, and I can explain to you why you're where you're at. Like, you know, they're not calling leads, or, you know, they're not, you know, doing your meal prep, or they're eating the broccoli and drinking the water, like all of those things, your sleep, we can layer all that on. Show me what you're doing and I'll clearly see what you're not doing, and we can see exactly where you are. And it's like, oh, there's the answer.
Yeah. And it's the same thing with, like, I don't know, I'm going to bring up Vince Garanda, and no one's probably going to know who that is, but he was the king of bodybuilding, and he was like one of Arnold's original coaches who coached the coach that coached Arnold. And like, the guy ate beef only, liver tablets, and did full body every day. And he did it, and he timed it, and he would do movements that are complementary of one another. that don't have a lot of interference. And he would do compound body movements as well. Sounds very familiar to something that we're talking about.
No.
But the thing is like, that was in the, I don't know, 50s, 60s. And we go back and look and got massive results. Right? This is CrossFit, right? But it's a different fabric of time. And you need different coaches now that can deal with the traumas and the distractions. And that, like, take, for example, I personally, when I go through something, I just started deleting ads. If I see an ad that made me feel bad about myself, I delete it. And I wonder how many owners are seeing other owners or getting marketed something from a, hey, are you not getting 20,000 leads? And like, you don't really recognize that this is causing trauma either. And that's something to dig into as a coach when you, hey, I have this fear I don't know about.
Yeah. I mean, the number one reason everybody stays on social media is the fear of missing out. Like, very few people I know truly genuinely love the day-to-day interaction on there. But when you ask, why won't you leave? They're like, well, yeah, and insert whatever version of fear of missing out exists in there. Like, it's just, and the same thing happens when you're like, okay, delete the ads. They're like, it's a great idea, I should do that. And then right before they delete it, they're like, well, if I'm just seeing this ad, then somebody else is seeing this ad. And if I don't click on this ad, then this might be my advantage over the next person. And there's a reason why so many businesses are line item extensions of other businesses. It's scary, hard, vulnerable work to build a blue ocean business, because to bring forth that thing that is your soul is trying to express through you is terrifying, right? Like, what if people don't want it? That's incredibly vulnerable to be like, wow, this is my compelling reason for existence, my why, my mission, my vision, and then crickets. That seems like everybody's biggest fear. But it's much easier to be like, this is the affiliate I'd love to create. If I could do it my own way, this is exactly how and every affiliate owner has this version, right? If I could do it over again, if I could do it this way, I would do it like this. And then, but this is how we do it. And why? Well, it's just everybody else is doing it that way. I'm like, well, stop copying everybody because they're not working, right? Like, if that was the answer, we wouldn't even be having this conversation, because this wouldn't even be a market segment, right? There would be so much success inside the affiliate model that, like, Scrooge McDuck money, right? So maybe we should just all start taking that model, this perfect version, and figuring out, what do I need to stop doing in order to start doing that? What is in my way? What is the struggle for me? What is my fear in terms of creating that thing? And then it will produce a handful of results. Oh, people couldn't afford it, or I would have to sell it, or all these things. We can work on that, right? Those are very tactile, tangible things. So we've spent this whole time talking about what are the fears, but what is the salvation? The salvation is figuring out, what is your blue ocean? Because that's the answer to all of these other fears, because fear is what's got you here, the actions you've taken from fears, and it's going to drive you deeper into the fear funnel. If we don't get back to belief, which is the whole reason why Fifth Affiliate is built this way, if we don't get back to belief and get you to believe in your ability to solve your own problems, I'm going to bury you further and further into the funnel by getting you to believe that I'm the solution to your problem. And I'm not. Fifth Affiliate is not. You are, but we'll pull that from you by not talking down to you and layering you with more complexity, and instead saying, hey, what's that idea? What is that perfect affiliate? Would you, if I could do it all over again, people would only pay, I've said it 1,000 times, I would really open an affiliate. Everybody would have to pay in full, all these things, right? Like, why not? Well, let's start there.
And I think that's, a big part of the story is understanding that no one is going to do it for you. Like, there's a meme I've probably shared a million times, is like, you need to be your own hero, because no one's coming to save you. And, you could knock on 1,000 guru doors. You can come to us, and it's not going to be the answer. It's going to be your realization that you have your own answers, and then having the confidence to back yourself to take action on that.
Because that's it. You have your own answers. You just don't have the confidence that you can bring them to life, or that they are in fact the right answers. You know what you would do if you could do it any way you want. You just don't believe in your ability to do it. And also, Lisa, you should change your name to Cow Cuddler. Fun fact, everybody, Lisa's been big on cuddling cows the last
And once you've done it, your life.
No,
has
not a
changed
vegan,
forever.
just loves to cuddle cows.
Yep. That's it. There was another suggestion that came forward for that today, but I won't go down that path. There's something about being a farmer. But anywho, I think that when people flick that switch that they, you know, and that's the irony in what you said, Tony, is that like they can't, if I could do it any way I wanted, I know what I do. Well, you can. And giving yourself permission to do that. Like, that's the beauty of the affiliate model, is that you can do this any way you want. You don't have to have a certain color scheme on your wall or do, whatever. Like, you could run classes all through the night if you didn't want to coach in the day. Cool. You do you, boo. But people don't give themselves permission to do what that they would do if they could do anything, because they don't believe they can do anything.
That goes back to the level one. Really, everyone always used to come and they wanted to talk about programming, or I'm doing this. I think I might have said this before, but people need to hear it again. It's like the goal is fitness. So you do whatever you want to do, and if efficacy or program is working and people are getting fitter, who are we to tell you that it's incorrect?
Right.
Truthfully. And so, like, I think what's cool about the affiliate model is, like, if somebody says, I want everyone to wear pink, and we're only going to do double under crossovers and do devil's press. That's it. But I love CrossFit.
Yeah.
You're like, well, okay. Seems like maybe that's not the exact model, but if you have a way to prove fitness is happening and people are getting fitter and they're having a good time, then who are we to say that your stuff's incorrect? Now, if you're like, well, they seem to be doing terrible in the open every year because we've never done a pull-up. Yeah, maybe a coach would be like, oh, maybe you should do a pull-up. And I think the beauty of the affiliate model is it's actually, Tony, you said it, when a thing's really practical and easy, like a numbers, like that stuff's really easy to look at with the affiliate model. But people get so confused at all the space in between, all the gray space. They just get so much anxiety from gray space because gray space is anxiety. The affiliate model kind of leads itself to anxiety because you're not given a direct step-by-step platform. And if you hire a coach to control and guide you as a shaman through the anxiety, you come out on the other side in the blue ocean. I just use the blue ocean.
Gonna show up with the chalice with my herbs and my elixirs in there. When we built the model, there was no false assumptions that this was going to be the model for everybody, right? We knew very clearly that there was going to be a small percentage of affiliates, the blue ocean ones, that we could and would work with, and we would reject. I shouldn't say reject. That sounds bad. We would direct all the others in a different path. And that has still remained true because we ultimately know the people who are the most receptive to this and the most respective of it are the ones who have probably tried several other mentorships, or they've tried several other solutions, and they've been like, hey, wherever I go, there I am. This is not, again, meant to become a therapeutic thing and say, like, listen, I would like to break the behavior pattern. I'd like to break this habit loop that I seem to be unconsciously or unknowingly involved in, because I'm paying all these thousands and tens of thousands of dollars to these people who seemingly present great ideas to me, but nothing seems to be working, right? Or else it works up to a certain point, but I'm still not ultimately finding or sourcing that thing that I'm looking for. Or even more fun is when they say, hey, listen, all those things seem great, but they don't really help me understand how I can bring forth this thing that I would love and be proud to create, right? And like, those are the people who land on our calendar, they land in our inbox, they land on our service list. It's a small percentage. It's a rare percentage. We'll call it a quote unquote elite percentage, but it's the same thing inside your affiliate, right? Like, you cannot, and maybe one of the more freeing things for affiliate owners to reflect on is you're not supposed to have everybody in town. That'd be a terrible idea. You should have less than 1% of your population at best, because your job is to change them irreversibly so that they can go change other people irreversibly. It's not your job to bring in the entire population of your city, right? Like, and same thing, we would never want to bring in the entire population of the affiliate model. My job, our job, the affiliate's job, is to change the change makers in the affiliate model, change those blue oceans and make them undeniably, unrecognizably, appreciably better, so that everybody else is like, what are they doing? Right. And then when they get to them and say, can you teach me how to do it? I want all those affiliates to say, no, because that's not what's going to solve your problem. But I'll tell you what you do need to do. Stop trying more things. And that was the whole reason the model was built that way.
And I think the problem with that is because we talk quite directly about what it is we're not, what it is we do, and then the voodoo that you do so well. They, when you're in a state of fear and stress and scarcity, and then you get all this crap in your inbox that tells you where you're failing, but here's a band-aid. Here's how to make it better. Here's the answer. It's very easy to just react and do that because you're stuck in that space rather than going, and we've had it. We've had clients come in, just tell me what to do to get out of this spot. And then we can talk about the other stuff.
Yeah.
It's like, well, no. And then they don't have they don't have the patience to sit with it because they're in this state of, fight or flight and heightened anxiety and the sky is falling. And all that sort of stuff that comes through their inbox and through their socials plays on all those insecurities. Yeah, I suck at writing copy. I suck at this. I suck at that. I need someone to do this for me. You don't even need to do that at all necessarily. But it's the harder path, which is why you said it is a smaller percentage of people who will sit there and go, okay, let's start the journey.
Yeah, and I think, like I said, it comes down to Greg's old adage of the doctor and a lifeguard. And like, if absolutely what happens in an affiliate is everything you need to protect and preserve your life, that's when you need a lifeguard. But if you get too far beyond that point, you need a doctor, right? Like, and that is essentially the same thing that ends up happening in the business. But and not to say that we can't fix your business when it gets so far, but like, let's get here when you still need a lifeguard. Let's build a life so that can happen. But that requires a certain degree of openness and acknowledgement, because like just the same as the general population, they're not going to walk in your gym looking for the lifeguard, right? They'd much rather walk in the doctor and look for the immediate fix. They want the pill, they want the surgery, they want the template, right? And so you guys as affiliate owners scoff at that every single day all over social media. How could they do that? But the irony here is that when you sit in my seat and I look at you, it's the exact same thing you're doing in your business. Rather than look for the lifeguard and the coach, you go looking for the pill, the answer, the program, the surgery. And like, don't be a hypocrite. And that might seem harsh, but it's the truth. Like, if you have a hard time figuring out how to sell what it is that you sell and get people to pay you for what it is that you provide, take a look at whether or not you would pay for those exact same services. And if you yourself are going out and buying the pill, buying the surgery, buying the programs to fix your affiliate, it's no surprise why you struggle to sell lifeguard, to sell coaching to the general public. You probably just try to sell them training.
And a quick tour of your Matt Black goodness with all the things to distract from the.
Ain't nothing wrong with Matt Black goodness, but
no, it's good for the soul. I invested in much of that in my time, but it's also, just to circle back to a point we raised earlier is, when you have to have that uncomfortable conversation with a member about, hey, I've been watching what you're doing, yet, this is where you've wound up. How many affiliate owners are avoiding those conversations as well? Because they're like, well, if I go and talk to Andrew and say, look, something's not adding up here. You're telling me you're doing all these things, but I'm looking at you physically and da-da-da. Well, Andrew's going to get pissed at me and Andrew's going to leave. And I can't afford to lose another member. So I'm just going to go high five Andrew and say, great job, buddy. You're doing awesome. See you next week. And I know full well that Andrew's going home. He's gone through a drive-through. He's getting 3 burgers and a shake on his way home, and he's going to sit at home and eat it. He's going to feel like crap while he's eating it. But when he comes in, I'm going to high-five him and tell him what a good job he's doing. So then he'll keep coming back because I can't afford to lose, Andrew and the others like him. So they're not having the conversations internally.
Yeah.
Sorry to pick on you, Andrew.
No, it's good. I love it.
I mean, I like burgers. I'm hungry. And I think for a lot of affiliate owners too, they're like, okay, yeah, that's all great. But like, imagine a place where you guys, a group, a forum, a place where everybody came and shared collaborative ideas that were not their own interpretation of how to implement the process and system. They're all a part of these groups and these programs, these mentorships, et cetera. And they have these large followings, these social groups, but everybody talks about their experience iterating or implementing XYZ versus thing. And imagine a place where, like inside our group, where you literally just come and everybody brings their own idea and their own belief and their own conviction and their own support as to why that is their solution. And then also helps people better understand, like, here's the things that work for us and this is why. Like that, I think is the piece of it that's always been missing, which is like, you know, Andrew and I talked about this morning, which is way back to the very, very beginning of CrossFit, which is pre most people's experience, which is like CrossFit was whatever you thought it was from whatever you encountered in the forum and in the journal, right? And you took that forward, and that was your application until, you know, effectively you ran out of its runway, and then you went and found a coach who's like, hey, listen, help me better understand these things that I think I might be getting wrong, right? Like, and it was never about like, here's the journal, read this from A to B, and then start CrossFit, right? And then once you can do all these things, then you get a pin. That was never the case, right? It was like, hey, go try this stuff. It's crazy. We don't even know if it's actually working. Somebody might die. If you do, can somebody record it, right? Like that was like the early days. And then let's go talk about it in the forum.
Yeah, and tell us about it.
Back. Yeah.
Yeah, the tell us about it piece.
Yeah.
What did you learn? Not just what did you do? And I'm going to go replicate that. What did you learn? Like what worked, what didn't? So, yeah, you know what? You shouldn't just throw your rings up on any old tree branch that you see. And maybe if you're going to duct tape weights to a kettlebell, maybe you should do it a bit better.
There used to be so many things on equipment and how the affiliate, and then, or even if you go back to just the .com workout, and it was, 3 rounds for time, you're going to have people talking about, I came out way too hot. I wish I would, and you can relate that to affiliate owner experience. And I think the thing that I loved about CrossFit with that form, once again talked to Tony about this earlier, was like you can get $1 million guidance and community for free.
Yeah.
Now things aren't free anymore in the world, but like sometimes the price now, because that was pre-social media, pre everything. And like if somebody was hustling their ass off, reading every journal article, going through every comment, commenting back on some people's shared experiences, then they're taking notes on the side. I mean, you're getting a world-class education on anything you really want to, because you have enough people who are willing to have that conversation.
I think so many people now, they live in this current epoch of CrossFit, which is amazing because I'm glad that we've reached mainstream adoption. There's so many CrossFitters, but like if you go way, way back 20 years ago, like, we say it a lot on this podcast, like what do you need to stop doing to be successful? But like that was the very nature of what it meant to find CrossFit back then, because you have to understand that CrossFit came to existence in a time, in an era where essentially men's health was the only guiding principle. And they would give you these weekly, monthly dissertations about what you need to do. And, you would attempt at your best ability to go do your hour of cardio, back and biceps, chest, tries, all these things. And then pops up this website that says, hey, all that seems great, but maybe have you tried just running around a track as hard as you can once, and then just do 50 air squats and then do that 4 times? All of us in that era, we're all like, I mean, sure, for a warm up, I'll give it a shot. That seems simple enough. And literally destroyed us, right? Like all of us were like, what the fuck just happened, right? Like, and it was undeniable that maybe there was something more to it. We probably all had the same knee-jerk reaction, never fucking doing that again, but we all did, right? And 20 years later, we're here. And, I bring back that correlation because your business is the same. Right? Like, go run the track and do the 50 air squats and do it 4 times and get laid out and realize that like the 72 segmented bodywork movements that you're trying to do for fitness is not working. Now, let's just try some intensity, some very specific meter intensity, prospecting, insert whatever it is that you want to not do, right? Like I didn't want to go run the track that day and do 50 air squats, but a stupid ass website said that I needed to do it. And the reason I agreed to do it is because like I saw this little dude with massive headphones in some really shitty old wrestling gear blister that workout. I was like, there's no way a human just did that fast, right?
Are you talking about Chris Spieler?
Yes. Yeah. And to this day, I'm still trying to chase his little ass around. Shout out to Chris. I will never, ever run track with you. But the point is that CrossFit changed fitness in an era when everybody was trying to sell complexity, right? It came up and it said, hey, love what you guys are doing. Just try this one workout. Just do it, 3 to 5 times a week. Let me know how it goes. If it's not working, totally understand it. And it took the world by storm because all of us died doing it. But all jokes aside, like that's all it took. And back to Andrew's point about the level 1, do whatever you want to do, right? If it's creating fitness, and like if you come to me and you want to wear pink and you only want to do crossovers and like and you say to me like people are getting fitter and these are the objectives that we're measuring, I'm like, holy shit, it actually does work. High five. But if you come to me and say, hey, listen, I make people wear pink, they only do crossovers, but nobody's paying me, I'm going to say, well, have you considered not wearing pink, right? And this is the very nature of most of what ends up happening inside the affiliate models. They're like, well, I wanted to build an affiliate that wore pink. I'm like, well, here's the problem with business. Unlike fitness, it's determined by the market, right? Like, and that's what's going to have to change. But it's always about simplicity, and we get it from a fundamental, functional level in fitness. The same rules apply to your business. That was only the goal ever with Fit Affiliate was like, let's apply the principles of fitness to business, and you can't lose. And it's like to the point of the journal was, probably the coolest resource ever, but the forum was even better, right? Because the forum was where all of us were taking whatever we were reading, whatever we were experiencing, and then showing up and being like, somebody help, like, because there was no affiliates back then. And so what you got was this daily sort of dissertation of hundreds of people's day-to-day experiences about these things. And so we were all working through it. And that's all we sought to do when bringing forth the group, is they're like, hey, listen, let's just talk about your daily experience, right? Not about, why this workout is the best workout you've ever done and why it's the only workout you need to do for the rest of your life. Like, how'd that feel for you? Because some people, when it comes to prospecting, will crush it. They love banging those phones. Other people, that's like a 400-meter run to them, right? Let's talk about what those struggles are.
And I think that's a perfect note to put a pin in this one, but I know that we could talk about this for hours and go.
That's good, because I'm starting to sweat over here on this treadmill, so I was going to have to slow down there. But
yeah, I was about to say, I feel I almost called you out on it, but I was like, I don't want to call his capacity out.
It's like 92 degrees out today, so and the AC's off because it blows right on me. So I'm like, we're going to need to wrap this up because I got to shower.
Tony's starting to glisten there with awesomeness, so we'll put dear Lord, I've seen it all now. All right, guys, another insightful episode. And remember, if you are watching this or listening to this, please drop us a like and a subscribe on your favorite platform. You can reach out to us on Instagram @FitAffiliate. Happy to chat to you, and, move faster than fear. Book a call. We're here to help. We'll listen. We won't judge. And let's see where the journey takes you. All right, gentlemen, enjoy the rest of your day.
Go take a cold shower.